You're listening to I Love This TV Show, The Golden Girls.
The Golden Girls, Season 3, Episode 5. Nothing to Fear But Fear Itself. Original air date, October 24th, 1987. In this episode, Sophia is baking lasagna. Dorothy and Blanche come into the kitchen to see what smells so good. Sophia is making it for a contest. Both try it and love it, but Sophia says it's garbage. Rose comes in with the mail, and she's upset. Her Aunt Gretchen has died. Rose tells them that she has to speak at her funeral. Her biggest fear is speaking in front of people. But she has to do it because of tradition. She freaks out. Dorothy tells her to imagine everyone naked. Blanche tries and starts laughing at Dorothy. Rose then tries and starts laughing at Dorothy too. Another day in the kitchen, and Sophia is making veal parmesan. Sophia tells a story from when she and Sel were newlyweds. They had a fight, and he left. She started cooking. And it turns out it was the night that Dorothy was conceived. Everyone winds up in the kitchen, and Rose tells a St. Olaf story. She was fourth in her class, but was the valedictorian. She had to give the speech. It didn't go well, and ever since then, she is afraid of public speaking. Dorothy shares that she was afraid of flying. She had to get therapy to fly to her sister's wedding. Blanche had a recurring dream about being trapped in a small space full of men. All of the men were bald. The two try to build Rose up and send her to write her speech. Dorothy confesses she would hate having to give a eulogy. Blanche asks her what she would say about her. The two nearly get into an argument. Then Dorothy asks Blanche what she would say about her. She says, "Dorothy made me feel safe." Dorothy doesn't like the rest of what she says. She gets a little revenge by telling Blanche that she'd say she was fat. That afternoon, Rose joins them all on the lanai to practice her eulogy. She starts and then stops. She asks them all to come with her for support. They agree to go with her. Rose exits to make plane reservations. Her aunt is being buried in the Bahamas. Sophia comments to Dorothy that she's glad she got over her fear of flying, and she scares her by describing a small, shaky, and wobbly plane. Dorothy freaks out. It's now the day of their trip, and Blanche is checking the weather. It should be nice. Dorothy comes out and makes an excuse about Sophia being sick and taking her to the hospital. She got food poisoning at the cooking contest. However, Sophia spoils her plan when she walks back in the house completely fine. She just forgot the wine. Blanche points out that Dorothy made it up because she does not want to get on the plane. Now Rose refuses to go. Blanche gives a speech to inspire them to conquer their fears and go. They are all finally on the plane. Dorothy has a death grip on Blanche's arm. Rose found a big bolt. As the plane prepares to take off, Dorothy gets a bit freaked out. Blanche gives her some champagne to calm her down. Dorothy just gets crankier, though. Blanche prompts Rose to work on her eulogy. And then Blanche suddenly freaks out. The plane is full of bald men. Her nightmare. Dorothy is now drunk and no longer afraid. Blanche reminds them of her recurring dream. She left out the part where the plane crashes. The captain gives a short message. His name is Captain Lord. During the flight, all three look extremely tense and afraid. Blanche tells a story about when they had a hurricane and the power went out for 2 days. The captain comes on the speaker. They are heading towards a storm, but have to turn around and go back to Miami because of this storm. Rose is upset because she didn't get to face her fear like the other two. Blanche tells her to give it now. Rose grabs the microphone controller to give her speech. She paints a scary picture of her aunt, but then realizes that her aunt was trying to help her not be scared. The three return home, and Sophia is surprised to see them. Sophia tells them how the cooking contest went. She was tied with another person. The other person died, though. And Sophia volunteered Rose to give the eulogy. Favorite quotes? Dorothy. Rose, I take it that no member of your family was ever a returning champion on Jeopardy! Blanche. You were afraid of something? A big old strong strapping thing like you? Dorothy. Who am I? Joe Frazier? Blanche. I don't believe my ears. Girls, the entire purpose of this trip is to conquer our fears. Why, if we back out now, that will mean that our fears have conquered us. Rose. If Blanche is right, and we are going to die this afternoon, I'm glad we are together. In this episode, the main topic, subject matter, it seems to be fear. And the fear that Dorothy has is flying, the fear that Blanche has is being enclosed in a small space with a whole bunch of bald men. Though personally, I'm kind of shocked that she seems to care about them being bald. I figure she'd just be like, ooh, the more the merrier. And then with Rose, she has a fear of public speaking. And these are all fears that are relatively normal. I mean, Blanche's is a bit odd, but many people are afraid of flying. Many people are afraid of public speaking. I'm not sure how I feel about flying. I've never been on a plane. So I can't say I'm afraid of it until I actually get on a plane. But Dorothy and some of the things that are discussed with her fear of flying, it was really good of her that she went and did therapy, because therapy will definitely help you get over a fear. It'll help you understand what caused the fear. Some people are afraid of planes because there's a height issue, or it's even a control issue because they have no control over what happens when they're on the plane. It's all in someone else's hands. And for that same reason, a lot of people don't always make good passengers in cars. But yes, Dorothy's fear seems to be a little worse than most people's because of the fact that, Sophia tells the story about how she literally in her 40s, begged or threw a temper tantrum like a child on the tarmac before takeoff. The therapist clearly didn't help her as much as she had hoped, and Blanche's solution to get Dorothy drunk seemed to be the most effective. And Rose's fear was speech. That's one that a lot of people have, is a fear of public speaking. I don't think she has the fear of speaking in public per se. It's more of that her family's going to make fun of her, because she definitely mentions that sometimes our family is cruel to us. Rose is actually very eloquent when she speaks. She doesn't use some of the big, huge, crazy words that Dorothy uses, but at the same time, she still gets her point across in usually a poignant way. And it does usually involve a St. Olaf story, but most of the time, it is pretty much smack on the nose, even though the others get annoyed, because sometimes she does take a more roundabout way. Now, Blanche, I'm still trying to understand why she would have issues being trapped with a whole bunch of men in a small space. I mean, Blanche is the ladies' man. Or the man's ladies? I don't know really how you'd phrase that. I mean, okay, we'll go with man-eater. We'll steal the phrase from Hall & Oates. She's the man-eater. You would think that she'd be excited to be trapped, essentially, with a whole bunch of men. Although maybe in her dream they're also married men and they have no interest in her, as well as being bald, so that could be the whole problem there for her. But maybe it was just the fact that the plane crashed at the end. I'm not sure. Thankfully, though, none of our ladies died in this episode. Although, I am curious to know if Blanche tried to get all of the guys' numbers, because they were all like retired Mr. Cleans. Sophia and her cooking, baking contest. I get a kick out of that type of thing, because I used to enter those myself, and I don't do that anywhere near as much anymore. But baking is fun, and the fact that she was so particular about the reactions that both Dorothy and Blanche had when they tried her, what was it, lasagna al Sophia or lasagna al forno? She's called it both in various episodes. But it's funny because she wants a certain reaction, she doesn't get it. And the way the cooking contest ended, where she was neck and neck and the other person literally died, that's horrible. And then Rose's face at having to give the eulogy of a complete stranger, ooh wee. But based on the lady's age, maybe there's no one else alive to give the eulogy. And maybe Sophia thought because Rose is a kind person, and even, a simpleton, as she gets described many times, that she would find some nice things to say and make it a nicer service than someone who would just kind of maybe be a jerk. But one interesting thing in this episode is that, Dorothy's fear of flying, because I know that there's been plenty of other episodes where it gets mentioned that she flew here and she flew there, and there's never any mention of fear of flying in any episode except for this one. So that could be one of those lovely little writer inconsistencies. Regardless, though, it's a fabulously funny episode, and it is one of my favorites. Thanks for tuning in to the I Love This TV Show podcast. If you would like to make a donation in support of this podcast, you can through Cash App to Pasta26MC. That's pasta like the food, the number 2, the number 6, M as in monkey, C as in cat. If you would like to sponsor this podcast or advertise on it, please send an email to podcast@pastasworld.com. As always, you can go to pastasworld.com for more information.